Salute, salute, salute. Wow. So if you go back and watch my prediction video of Shakur Stevenson against Robson KEYSHAWN, I was pretty much, right on the money. Especially, I made that prediction video before the weigh-in day. After Shakur Stevenson missed his weight, then, I'm really not surprised by the way that fight went. You know what I'm saying? Even though it was still a decent, or I say it was a good performance, but it wasn't a stellar performance. And in my opinion, once you lose your belts on the scale, then to offset that, you should have a spectacular, stellar performance, if not a knockout, to offset the fact that you may have showed a little bit of a lack of discipline on the scale. Now, he said he did everything in his power to make that weight, and it just wasn't going to happen. He said he was even, his urination had discoloration to an orange color. You dig? So maybe he wasn't able to rehydrate to feel his full power, is why he couldn't keep his foot on the gas and knock out KEYSHAWN. But at the end of the day, I can only deal with the facts. And the facts of the matter is, like I said, my prediction was what it was, and it came out to be a unanimous decision. You know what I'm saying? And I expect some of the criticism that I'm hearing now, I seen that coming. The comparison to Gervonta Tank Davis's and the Devin Haney's, especially since he's going up to 135. I pretty much already heard all of that coming around the corner too, so none of it right now is surprising to me. You know what I'm saying? I have my own thoughts on it too, as far as what it would look like with him going up to 135 and who he would be facing, you know what I'm saying, in that arena. But right now, I'm not going to be speculating, because I don't see him. I really don't see him going up to 135 and fighting those top guys right off the bat. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not going to really waste my time and my thoughts on things that are so like hypothetical or fantasy matchups right now. It's intriguing, but I'm not going to fatigue my thoughts on it, because let me just focus on what already happened first. Like I said, Robson KEYSHAWN was definitely a tough fighter to be fighting for a showcase fight on a homecoming fight. I kind of, like I said, remembered it could have went totally wrong when I look at Jarrett Swift Hurd versus Julian J. Rock Williams. Man, he lost in front of his hometown crowd picking the wrong opponent, because J. Rock didn't look that good in some of his last fights. He had got knocked out. And Swift Jarrett Hurd was known for having some decent knockout power. Julian J. Rock turned right back around and lost to Jason Rosario, and Jason Rosario went on to lose to Jermell Charlo. So it is what it is. When I look at Shakur Stevenson fighting Robson KEYSHAWN in his backyard, and then he missed weight, he fighting against a tough dude, and I think he might have miscalculated a little bit. I think he might have underestimated his opponent a little bit. I think that he really thought that Robson KEYSHAWN would gas out after about 6 rounds. And if you look at it, he was on the hook to get knocked out a couple of times. I can think of 3 times where it looked like Robson KEYSHAWN was about to get took out, and he was able to gather his second win. He was able to, he was able to fight back, and he had some crafty techniques, some little, it was a few times where he was holding a little excessively, frustrating Shakur Stevenson, throwing him to the canvas multiple times, got a point deducted, which shows Shakur Stevenson rehydrates up. You can see how big he was when he rehydrates up. You know what I'm saying? Versus the weigh-in day, how small and puny he looked. So to say he was totally rehydrated, I do not know. But you can still see when he rehydrates up, it's a difference. It's a big difference in size. His strength, he was throwing this man down A lot of times when you see somebody pick somebody up or throw them down, they got to use their arms and everything. Shakur Stevenson just kind of twisted a little bit and threw him down. So he showed a lot of strength, but my thing is this: him not getting that knockout was just really because he didn't commit to the body like I think he should have. When he was breaking this man down to the body and getting him hurt, he would take his foot off the gas pedal, and he had a poor choice in punch selection. And not to say that Robson Conceição didn't have his aid in that too, because sometimes Robson Conceição would wiggle off the hook, throwing a good shot, and he had some they was trading some leather. And Conceição was hitting Shakur with some decent shots. Period. They both was getting off some decent shots, and Shakur Stevenson is known for his defense, not wanting to get hit. All in all, it was a decent fight. Nothing in there really surprised me. I didn't see Shakur getting a knockout. I thought he would win by unanimous decision. I would like to see him get a more cleaner knockdown. He did knock him down with a little punch that landed like up in the chest body area, but it looked so, it was a fast punch, but it looked so weird, and it happened right at the end of the round with a bell rung. He really didn't even get credit. The man, it just didn't highlight as a knockout. Like, the dude even asked him, how did it feel about that punch placement? Was that what kind of knockout was it? How you feel about the knockout? And Shakur Stevenson was like, oh, did I knock him out? You know, my adrenaline was rushing, and I was in the moment, and I was locked in and focused in. So he didn't even know he knocked the man down, or if they counted it as a knockdown. And I still went back and watched that a couple of times and couldn't tell if that was a knockdown. I've seen cleaner knockdowns not get counted as knockdowns, versus that being counted as a knockdown, and it just didn't look that clean. So it is what it is. I would have liked to see him with something that was a little bit more captivating and polarizing, like an uppercut, because he landed some clean uppercuts. Woo, he landed some clean uppercuts. If he would have committed down to the body, to the point where he seen that Conceição was broke down to the last, you know what I'm saying, molecule, and he had nothing left, and then he would have finished off with an uppercut, it would have been stellar. But he wouldn't do that. He'd have hurt him to the body, and then he would sit back and assess too much, and then he would reset his own self too much and start all the way back over, and then throw away shots that Robson Conceição was smiling at and was able to poker face, parry, come back with his own shot, and hit Shakur flush. And that's what was happening pretty much every time Shakur had the man on the hook. He would let him get off and let him wiggle off the hook, and then he had to go back all the way back over to the whole form like he was fly fishing without a damn fly. But anyway, but I wasn't surprised. Conceição was that type of a fighter. Based off what I seen against Oscar Valdez had a different approach and a different type of pressure. And plus, Oscar Valdez was fighting from behind the 8-ball. Oscar Valdez was already rounds behind, and he was trying to catch up. So he was really mashing on the gas. And Robson Conceição started to fade in the second half. Shakur really wasn't doing that. Shakur was putting those master chess moves on him, one move at a time, and then letting his man sit there and think and counter. In order for him to get Conceição out of there, I think he would have had to have more. And it's kind of intriguing to know, was the weight cut the difference, or was fighting in front of his hometown the difference, or was it just he doesn't have that power that's going to carry into the 135? We will see when he goes into 135, whoever he decides to fight. I would expect, if Shakur Stevenson wants to go to 135 and start really making those dudes be on alert status, he needs to knock out. He needs to knock out his next opponent. You know what I'm saying? You can't go from knocking out our TKO stoppage on Jamel Herring. You sparred with him and you were familiar with him, to having a dominating performance against Oscar Valdez, and then having, a somewhat to some people lackluster performance against Robson Conceição, lose on the scales, go up to 135, and then have like another 12-round majority or unanimous decision where I would not like to see him go on that trajectory. But it's most likely because he's just not known for having that kind of one-punch knockout power. And if he's going up to 135, you got to think he's going to be fighting against guys that's going to have a little bit more punch resistance than Robson can say so. So I don't see him just going up there and knocking off the guy. But the thing is, I say this one thing about Tank, and then I will get out the way. Because Tank knocked out Rolly Romero. But he went 12 with Isaac Cruz. Now, it's the difference between Isaac Cruz and Shakur Stevenson. But I'm saying Shakur Stevenson, the caliber opponent, his last 3 fights, his caliber opponents, to me, are better opponents than what Tank has fought. So even though Tank has that one-hitter quitter, it is still possible that we haven't seen him fight against somebody that's a superior boxer that could outbox him for 12 rounds and not let him land that powerful knockout. So it's still there. I lean towards Tank versus Haney. I lean towards Tank versus Ryan. I lean towards Tank versus Shakur Stevenson. That's why I wanted Shakur Stevenson to stay at 130 and reign supreme for a longer time. So if he fights Tank, it's way too premature for me to start making my assessments. I lean towards Tank because he has one-punch knockout power. And we do see Shakur Stevenson getting hit flush with a right hand. But that's not to say that Shakur Stevenson, if he has a perfect night, you know what I'm saying, it's possible, especially when I look at Gervonta Tank Davis versus Leo Santa Cruz. If you really outbox Tank, you might be able to go 12 rounds without him landing that powerful shot. But like I said, I'm really not going to, that's too far for me to be fantasizing right now. Salute goes out to Shakur Stevenson. Salute goes out to Robson Conceição. I like that he came to win. He didn't come and lay down. And look, KEYSHAWN Davis, I see him talking, you know what I'm saying? My only thoughts on that right now, boxing is for the young. He's young. He's doing what he's supposed to do, saying the things he's supposed to say. Youth is wasted on the youth. You know what I'm saying? He should keep his focus dialed in on guys like Rolly Romero and Andy Cruz, I think that's his name, and that's what he should be focused on, and that's what he should be talking about. Other than that, he shouldn't be talking about other things. That could put him in the same position as a Chris Colbert or Blair the Flair when you just talking. You know what I'm saying? Salute, salute, salute.